Technomancer isn't just underrated, and it's not even just good, it's great. It's a game that easily surpasses BioWare's two most recent releases, Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda, two games I've spent the better part of the last 2 years covering on this channel. Technomancer is a must-play for fans of the Mass Effect series, KOTOR games, or the Deus Ex franchise, and yet many of you have maybe never even heard of it. Technomancer is a sci-fi RPG released in 2016 by a small French developer called Spiders and is quite possibly the most underrated video game I have ever played. It's a cyberpunk setting on Mars hundreds of years after Earth's colonization and terraforming attempts have failed. Giant corporations originating from the first water guilds to produce drinkable water on Mars now rule everything. You play as Zachariah Rogue, the newest inductee into a secretive, vaguely religious order of warriors known as Technomancers, who among other things have the power to discharge bursts of electricity. The Technomancers have become caught up in a war between two corporations. You see, in this bleak dystopian future of Mars, corporations are now nations. Their employees are like citizens. They even have armies, schools, doctors, rulers, and some even have something like representative government. Abundance, the largest and oldest of the corporations, is embroiled in a bitter war against Aurora, the newest and perhaps most unpredictable of the corporations. Before I say any more about the story of Technomancer, I need to address something outright and upfront. When I say this is the most underrated game that I have ever played, I am not making that statement lightly. I've tried to seriously and thoroughly think about this for the past few days, racking my brain thinking of another game that has been this erroneously misjudged and undervalued, and I can't think of one that even comes close. I've long thought that Halo Reach was an underrated but popular game. I still think that Pillars of Eternity series should be a large-scale hit instead of just a cult classic, but those don't even come close to the discrepancy between the widespread reception of Technomancer and the actual reality of what this game sets out to do and often accomplishes. Kingdom Come Deliverance might be the closest comparison as far as an ambitious AA title not getting the credit that it deserves, but in that case there are actual technical problems and some creative decisions that really hold the game back. Technomancer, on the other hand, is so free of deal-breaking flaws and so full of grade A RPG material that I am genuinely baffled that this game has gotten the reception that it did critically. I say this after significant consideration, but most of the critics, even some that I greatly respect, flat out got this one wrong. And I'm here to set the record straight. Hello and welcome to the Exalted March. Technomancer has a lot of things that you're going to like if you're a BioWare fan. In particular, and this is where I'll start, Technomancer has companions that you will care about, a story that's compelling and that you will feel driven to see the conclusion of. It has a robust fictional setting and an intriguing premise. And also, despite totally off-base criticism that it has faced, it has unique, fun, and intensely satisfying combat that only gets mildly slowed down by some repetitive enemy types. And amidst all of that, it has a thorough, detailed leveling system that will give you the freedom to customize your character into at least a few totally different builds. Oh, and last but not least, it has a robust crafting system that is essential to success and highly rewarding when you get into the mid and high tiers of upgrades. This is a game worth playing. Tastes and varying opinions aside, if you like Deus Ex, if you like KOTOR 1 and 2, if you like the Mass Effect franchise, and if you like those games for the same reason that I do, which is compelling, page-turning story, characters that you want to be friends with, dialogue choice, branching storylines based on player choice, and solid RPG leveling and character building, you will love Technomancer. The combat may actually be hit or miss for some people, but I loved it. And a great litmus test, I feel, is whether or not you liked The Witcher 3 combat, or better yet, do you like playing The Witcher 3 on Death March, where you very quickly develop twitch reflexes to dodge or parry after nearly every strike. If you're checking yes on all of these boxes, then just trust me. Pass the stupid IGN review on this game, pass the stupid YouTube comments hating on this game, pass all of that. Go straight ahead, pass go, and collect 200 serums. Don't worry, that'll make sense later. There is so much to say about this game that I'm not even going to be able to get into all of it in this video. I'll be back to talk about the different details in more depth, but I just needed to make a video about this game to bring more attention to it because, quite frankly, beyond a few Let's Plays and a couple of lukewarm at best reviews here and there just isn't much content out there. I wanted to bring people's attention to this game, and if you're here because of the KOTOR comparison, or you're just a BioWare fan or Obsidian fan in general, I wanted to show you some things that I think you will enjoy. To that end, let's talk about your companions, two of them in particular, Nisha and Andrew, who also goes by Lucky. You meet both of these characters in the first act of the game, and you have no idea when you're meeting them for the first time that they will eventually become a part of your party in Act 2. Nisha is introduced to you as a famous singer who performs for the rich and powerful, the closest thing to a celebrity that you can get in a bleak cyberpunk world on Mars. But later on, during the climactic ending of Act 1, you find out that she's actually a spy, a member of the resistance fighting against abundance, against your corporation. Except she's also now trying to save you as a faction inside of your corporation begins the first stages of a coup and declares you a traitor. Nisha is resilient, having been through a lot in her childhood, slightly on the mysterious side, which is natural as she begins to develop her spycraft. But there's also an earnestness to Nisha, not often seen in spies, a human side that endears you to her very quickly, a love of music and a compassion for people. I don't think I can fully showcase a character's appeal in one short clip, but I wanted to give a taste of the voice acting in particular because, again, this game has gotten so much flatly inaccurate criticism, especially when it comes to acting. Yes, there are some instances, including early on in the story, where the acting is weak, and that's a problem. But largely, the acting is very competent, and when it comes to the companions, the characters that you're going to, quite frankly, talk to the most, the acting can be downright good.
You miss making music?
I miss performing. I still sing for myself here and there, write new lyrics when I feel inspired. But the moments I shared with my audience, it was so intense when I felt everyone humming with me.
How about you sing for me?
Maybe another time, but I'd love to. There's something intimate in sharing your art, like sharing your soul. It's why I feel like music can unite people across corporations, on opposite sides of wars or causes. It's simply beautiful. And in between the notes, our differences seem to disappear. The second all this ends, I'll get back to it. It's what I was born for, and I'm not one to deny destiny.
I could talk about Nisha a bit longer, but in the interest of time, let's leave it there and move on to another one of your companions, Andrew. You meet Andrew also in Act 1 of the game, and he asks you for help while you're just standing in a certain part of the Merchant's Quarter. It's about the time when you finish another side quest, and he just calls out to you, not even as part of a cutscene yet. He just says, "Hey, come over here, I need to ask you for your help." And you learn very quickly that there's more to him than meets the eye. He sort of comes off like he might just be a traveling merchant, but there's actually a lot more to him than that. You come to learn that Andrew was once a part of your order. He was once, like you, a cadet training to become a Technomancer. Once that realization dawns on you, your character recognizes him again. You hadn't seen him since you were a child, and you remember that he was actually a part of your training up to a certain point. What happened is that Andrew was involved in a terrible accident. His powers surged out of control, and it caused him to actually end up losing his arm, and quite frankly, his future. He was sent away. The Technomancer masters at the time were afraid that his powers being so raw and hard to control could hurt him further or hurt others, and maybe more so than that, in their eyes, they thought that it could hurt the reputation of the Technomancer order. Technomancers, because of their power, are feared by a lot of people. Many people are very suspicious of them, and so they thought this kid injuring himself is going to look bad for our order, so they made the decision to expel Andrew and make it seem like he never existed at all. Understandably, he's not happy about that. Now, you can refuse to help Andrew completely in Act 1, but if you do choose to help him in order to come face to face with the master who was once his mentor, he'll remember that later on when you meet him in Act 2. And if you continue to grow your friendship with him, at some point, you may even be able to lead him to regain his technomancy abilities. Andrew is understandably wary of his own powers, and if you try to push him too hard or even praise him too much, he naturally grows a little suspicious of you. But if you appreciate him as a person, not just as a technomancer in training, he actually starts to open up.
You ever even know the influence you had? How much the other kids tried to be you? How much I did?
The influence was just an illusion. I don't like remembering myself like that. Even if it's right. Feel like I was just another manipulator, though. Manipulating people to get what I wanted out of them. To let them get what they wanted out of me. All just a time I'd rather forget, honestly. If you don't mind.
You were quite the charmer. Everyone gravitated to you. Made me feel like I didn't even exist. I was just one of the many kids who dreamed of being your friend. Remember the feeling more than anything else.
Funny you remember that. Yeah, we were both kind of... Neither one of us really fit in. We were just outsiders in different ways. I tried to do too much, tried to make up for being different. You were just always yourself. You must have felt so alone, but you never made friends just to fill the loneliness. Never thought I'd see you again, Zachariah. Let alone ever have this conversation with you. I'm happy to have found you. Again. Even if it comes with all those bad memories.
I was really impressed with how your character can help Andrew to grow, to heal, and to tangibly change as a person, but also to change how he affects gameplay as a companion. If you help him decide to become a Technomancer again, you can, with the help of another one of your companions, a doctor by the name of Scott Seeker, help Andrew regain what he once lost.
Of course. These kits are rather easy to adapt to a prosthesis, and it's given me ideas. You see, we could produce prostheses with an electrical transmission system, even for non-Technomancers. We would just have to...
May I?
Here.
I'd prefer if all those people weren't around.
Let's go to a quiet place. Hey, watch out!
Oh, you bought it? Don't worry, I've already messed you up enough.
You got me.
You know, not using Technomancy requires even more control, mastery. I'd completely forgotten this feeling of relaxation, peace.
Welcome back to your people, Andrew.
Thank you very much to both of you. It's so strange. I feel like I'm a new man.
You're welcome, my boy. Have fun.
From this point forward, Andrew plays in your party as a Technomancer with many of the same abilities that your player character has. I will say that while this is a pretty awesome change from a gameplay standpoint, it's not actually necessary from a character standpoint. Andrew makes it clear that he's made peace with the loss of his arm and doesn't necessarily regret not having his abilities. If you never help him regain his powers, he still has decent stats and he's pretty handy with a mace in combat. His personality also gives you a +1 to your charisma if your relationship is friendly with him. This scene is entirely optional, and it's just based on how your character decides to see Andrew. Your companions will comment on the environment as you walk around, comment on certain parts of certain quests, approve or disapprove of your choices, and even have their own preferences as to which factions you align yourself with. Naturally, they all also have their own specialties in combat and can boost your skills depending on your relationship with them. Now, one quick word on companions. Some criticism is warranted in that the first two companions that you get in the game, largely for story reasons, aren't all that satisfying. They come off as initially being super generic, and while neither one is actually as boring as they initially seem, they're never given enough space or time to really flesh out. This is actually true of a lot of BioWare games, but at least in the case of Technomancer, there is a twist, which I won't give away, that sort of justifies how and why these first companions are different than the rest. Beyond just companions, I'd like to leave you with just one other brief example of how this game won me over. Early on in the game, you're tasked with tracking down an opposition leader, a rebel leading a resistance against the corporate control of abundance. Unfortunately, I hadn't started capturing gameplay footage this early in the game, so I'll have to recap. Bulgakov, an opposition leader played by none other than Frida Wolf, the voice of female writer in Mass Effect Andromeda, is trying to destabilize and ultimately overthrow Abundance. You're ordered to find her, and in no uncertain terms, ordered to kill her. You catch her in the act of trying to plant a bomb at a train station. She makes her case about why Abundance is evil, and you can choose to listen to her and let her go, or to arrest her. While being arrested, she will then plead with you to kill her because her fate at the re-education camps will be far worse than death, according to her. And once again, you're faced with another choice. No matter what you choose, when asked about it by your captain, you can then choose to lie about what you did with Bulgakov or to tell the truth. Again, another choice, which will be remembered by certain characters at another crucial point in the story. And depending on how you chose to deal with Bulgakov, if you left her alive, you'll run into her again later on in the story, and yet again, have another choice as to how to deal with her after new information has potentially recast how you look at her and her cause. That's, by my count, 4 different decision points just on this one character, and I assure you, this is not the only side character to be handled in this way. This game is full of choices. Some of these are small, some of them are literally life and death decisions. I won't spoil anything, but some of your companions can die in this game, and your choices will affect that in some way. This is not mid-tier so-so RPG material. This is top-tier, grade A, player-driven, branching storyline, and it delivers in a big way, in a way that we have, quite frankly, sorely been missing since the glory days of BioWare. I'm confident now in saying this. Technomancer is the spiritual successor to Knights of the Old Republic. There's a lot that goes into that, and it will require a longer video to really delve into, but because of the depth and the frequency of choice, moral ambiguity in choice, and deep character backgrounds, this game, more than any other that I've played in recent years, feels appropriately suited to carry on the tradition of BioWare games that we haven't gotten in quite a while. It's not as technically sophisticated as the newer stuff BioWare has done, and by newer I mean even Mass Effect and Dragon Age. It's like a slightly modernized Knights of the Old Republic, Neverwinter Nights, or Jade Empire with better combat. If you're anything like me, that description is maybe exactly the type of game that you've been waiting for. This has been The Exalted March, a discussion about storytelling and design in video games. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button or leaving a comment, and if you'd like to stay informed about all future videos, please consider hitting the subscribe button. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Exalted March, and you can also check out Codex Added, a channel where I do live streams of story-driven games and post a bi-weekly podcast covering everything BioWare. As always, thanks for watching, and thanks for listening.